In this video, I'm going to show you how I get 11 different flavors from one buttercream recipe. Hi, it's Karolyn. If you want to learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes, then I would love for you to join me by hitting subscribe and the bell. Today's video, I am making a bunch of different flavors of filling from one basic recipe. And this is what I do when I fill my cakes. I don't always make an entire batch of one flavor. I'll make this basic batch and then add the flavors as I'm going to show you in this video. I will separate this video into chapters for you so you can easily go back and forth between whichever recipes that you want to see. And the tools and ingredients that I use will be linked in the description below. So let's get into the video. To make my basic buttercream recipe, you're going to need 2.5 sticks of butter. This is 10 ounces or 1 1/4 cup. I prefer to use salted butter. The salt cuts down on the sweetness. However, if you want, you can use unsalted butter and then add a pinch of salt to the icing. 3/4 cup of Sweetex high ratio shortening. I prefer high ratio shortening over any other shortenings. It just yields the best result. It has a smooth mouth feel. It's just so much better. I do have a video where I compare different shortenings and I will link that below. I use 3/4 cup in the warm months to help stabilize the icing better, and in the cooler months I use a 1/2 cup. So between a 1/2 cup and 3/4 cup of shortening. A 2-pound bag of 10x powdered sugar, big ups to Target. A couple tablespoons of liquid. Now I prefer to use water. I just have not found a big difference with using water or cream or milk, but you can use any liquid that you prefer. And my absolute favorite, Wilton Clear Vanilla. I will find this and link this below. I love this so much. People love it. If you don't like to use imitation vanilla, you can go ahead and use regular vanilla. Just know that if it's not clear, it will change the color of the icing. To start, I'm adding the 2.5 sticks of butter to the bowl. I didn't mention that this is room temperature, but it's still holding its shape. I can press down and make a little indent. It's not too soft, not too hard. And I'm just going to put that on about a 5 or 6 out of 10 for 20 seconds. Now I'm going to add all of the shortening. And then put that about a 5 or 6 out of 10 for about 45 seconds. Bringing this back down to low, and I'm going to add the vanilla. I just eyeball it. You can measure it out if you like. I'm going to do between 2 and 3 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to turn that up a little bit and just beat it for about 10 seconds. All right, now I want to add some liquid. I have a coffee scoop here. I just like using this because it has a long handle. It's comparable to a tablespoon. It might be a little more than a tablespoon, but I'm just going to add 2 or 3 tablespoons to the bottom of the bowl. I find that when I add the liquid to the bottom of the bowl, the sugar won't stick as bad. And then I have a towel, and I'm going to cover this with a towel so I don't get a sugar cloud all over my kitchen. I'm just going to empty the entire contents into the bowl. And where it sticks up on the side, just pulse it a couple times so the sugar goes it down. And I'm just going to completely cover this. I'm going to lock it into place, put it on about a 3 out of 10 until it starts to get incorporated. Good, it's starting to come together. This is still a little too stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 more tablespoon. And now I just want to scrape the sides and the bottom. If you have a scraper blade, you can skip this step. I just don't like using scraper blades, so I just prefer to do it manually, but scraping the scraper and then the sides and the bottom of the bowl. And then I'm going to put that on a 5 out of 10 for about 30 seconds. I'm going to keep it at a thicker consistency, so it's a little difficult for me to press my spatula down through it, but some of the ingredients I'm going to add will thin it out. So we will start with a little bit of a thicker consistency of this delicious vanilla icing and turn it into many different flavors. All right, so this is the basic recipe, the vanilla buttercream, and what I do is I'm just going to change this up by adding a bunch of different ingredients to get so many different flavors. All right, the first flavor is raspberry buttercream. I have a video showing you how I make this, and I love this so much. I use these raspberry sleeves. If I was making an entire batch of the raspberry buttercream, I would add a 1/2 cup of the raspberry filling to this. So when I'm making a cake, usually I don't need an entire batch. So what I will do, I save these containers for these purposes. So I like to start with a little bit, and then I can always add some more icing if I need some more. So then I'm going to open this raspberry bag and just squeeze a little bit up from the bottom. What I do now is an estimate. I don't have perfect measurements for all of these because it all depends on how much icing you use. Now I have about a cup of icing in here, and I'm going to put approximately a tablespoon of the filling in there and mix that around. So now I don't have to make an entire batch of raspberry buttercream if I'm only filling a 5-inch cake with it. I can just make a little bit of the flavor. And perfect, here is the raspberry buttercream. It smells so good. And this is one of the ones that you want to start with the stiffer buttercream, because adding this raspberry in here does thin out the icing a little bit. And just a little note here with these sleeves, when I'm ready to store it, I just run the water and squeeze out any excess. And then I can fold it over and clip it shut. The next option is strawberry buttercream, and I also have a video showing you how I make this. Now again, if I'm making an entire batch of the strawberry buttercream, I will put a half cup of the strawberry filling in here, which you can also use preserves if you like. For video purposes, I'm just going to show you how I flavor a small amount of the buttercream, doing the same process. And I just want to show you an easy way. Once this starts to get flat, it's difficult to get all of the filling out of here. So what I like to do, the clip is still on the one end, place this against the countertop on the edge and just start to pull down. And it forces all of it up to the top. You can do that for toothpaste too, by the way. I do that all the time. Don't waste any of it. So if I'm making just a little bit, say I'm filling a 4-inch cake, I would only need about a half cup. And again, you don't want to overdo it with this, so I'm just going to put in maybe a teaspoon of this filling. And then I'm going to run it under water like I did before and squeeze the excess out and clip it shut. I'm telling you, the strawberry buttercream, it's one of my favorites. It's so good. And here is the strawberry buttercream. And for the next one, I'm going to do blueberry buttercream, which is so delicious too. And I have this blueberry filling sleeve here. If I was going to make an entire batch of the blueberry buttercream, I would add, again, a half cup of this blueberry filling to the entire batch, but I'm just making a little bit of it. It's about a half cup in here. And again, I'm just going to squeeze about a teaspoon of it. So the more icing you have, the more filling you can squeeze in here. And remember, this is still the stiffened filling. And there's your blueberry buttercream. And I just clip this, and I'm going to store all of these fillings in the refrigerator. All right, now I still have pretty stiff buttercream here, and the other flavors don't require for it to be stiff. So what I want to do is just add a little bit more liquid to thin this out. Just add a little bit at a time. And it's a little easier for me to get my spatula through it. This is perfect. All right, so we had vanilla, which was 1, raspberry, strawberry, and blueberry. So that was 4. So we are up to our 5th flavor, and that is going to be almond. I love almond flavor. It's just so good. People don't think they like almond, but they like almond flavor. So I like to use this pure almond extract. And if I was making an entire batch of this, I would do probably 3 teaspoons, 2 to 3 teaspoons of almond, depending on how strong you want the flavor to be. And I would add that right after, either before or after adding the sugar. I don't think it's a big deal when you add the flavoring. So what I'm going to do instead, so if I was filling a smaller cake, just get a little bit of the icing. And is it risky for me to eyeball it? Because it might dump a lot out. This has a pretty wide opening. So really tiny bit of the almond, just because it's such a little bit of icing. Super simple, almond flavoring. And since we have the vanilla flavor in there already, the almond, it's okay to add the almond afterwards. The almond is going to overpower the vanilla, so you don't really taste the vanilla. All right, flavor number 6 is Wedding Bouquet. Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorites. I recently made a video showing you how I make this, so I will link that below. However, this Wedding Bouquet flavoring is so good. I get it from a lady down in Louisiana. She's super sweet, and I will link her site below so you can order this. This is the biggest size that it comes in. However, you can get smaller sizes. People are asking if it's similar to the Creme Bouquet. I've just found that this is superior. I've had other Wedding Bouquet flavors, but this is my absolute favorite. It is a blend of vanilla, almond, and citrus flavors, and you gotta try it out. So I will link it below. Enough of the Wedding Bouquet. So if I was making an entire batch of this, I like the flavor to be pretty strong in here. So with an entire batch, I would add between 1 and 3 tablespoons of this flavoring, depending on how strong I want it to be. Since I'm only doing a little bit, so if I was filling a cake, if I was filling a 7-inch cake, this looks like it would be enough. And that looks like it's probably 2.5 cups of icing. But just for demonstration purposes, I got some of the vanilla icing here. And again, this Wedding Bouquet flavor is more powerful than the vanilla, so it will overpower the vanilla in this icing. And you always want to shake it before you pour it. And with this 1/2 cup of icing, I will probably do about a teaspoon of the flavor. And here is the delicious, it smells so good, I'm telling you, Wedding Bouquet icing. Now the next 5 flavors I'm going to make require added ingredients that I like to chop really fine using a food processor. This is a big one. You can also get a small one. I just find that the small one it just doesn't hold as much, so I like to use the large one. I will find them and link them below. So we're going to do chocolate chip. So I just have some regular semi-sweet chocolate chips here. And what I like to do, I don't like to just pour chocolate chips into my cakes or into my icings. I like to chop them up. I just feel like it's easier to eat. You can buy mini chocolate chips if you like, but I just prefer to do it this way. And I have the blade in here and just pour the entire contents in. Put the lid down, lock it in place. And then I'm just going to turn it on until I see that the chips start breaking up. So I don't want them to be a fine crumb. I still want there to be chunks of chocolate in here. So I'm just going to turn it on for a little bit. So that was about 20 seconds. But can you see how there's a variety? There's some chocolate dust in here, but there's also small pieces, larger pieces. I just like doing this with my chocolate chips and a lot of my other ingredients. I like to chop them up. But anyway. So now, if I was making an entire batch of chocolate chip icing, I would add probably between a 1/2 cup and 3/4 cup of this chopped up chocolate chips and mix that together. It all depends on how chocolatey you want your chocolate chip filling to be. If I just needed a small amount, I would just take as much as I needed and just add a little bit. And there is the vanilla chocolate chip icing. And to store these chocolate chips, I have this lock and lock container that I keep them in, and I keep this in the refrigerator. So I'm just going to pour the rest in here, seal it up, and store it in the refrigerator. I don't think it's necessary to store it in the refrigerator. I just like to do that. Flavor number 8 is Heath Bar Buttercream, and it is so good. What I want to recommend is that you buy the milk chocolate with the toffee and not just the toffee. It's better with the chocolate, but maybe because I love chocolate and I'm biased. So again, I'm going to chop it up because Heath Bar can be a little sticky to the teeth. And it's already chopped up, but I like to get it to a fine crumb. And turning this on for about 20 seconds or so. So with the chocolate chips, I wanted variation, but with this, I just wanted it to be a fine powder. And if I was making an entire batch of Heath Bar Buttercream, I would add about a 1/2 cup of this to the buttercream. Or if I was just filling a cake with it, I would get however much buttercream that I need and adding a little bit at a time is good, because sometimes I go overboard and add too much. Delicious Heath Bar buttercream filling. And then to store the extra Heath Bar, I will just scoop it all into this container. Make sure it's in an airtight container, and again, you can refrigerate it if you want or not. I don't refrigerate this. I don't know why I refrigerate chips and not this stuff, but whatever. All right, flavor number 9, vanilla peanut butter chip. So delicious, and I'm going to do the same thing with the chips that I did with the chocolate chips. And these chop up faster than the chocolate ones, so that was only about 10 seconds that I put it on. And you can see the variation. There's some peanut butter dust. There's some variation in the sizes of the chips. If I were to make an entire batch of this, I would probably add between a half cup and 3/4 cup of the peanut butter chips to the entire recipe, depending on how chippy you want it to be. But if I was just filling a cake, I would take however much icing that I need and scoop in a little bit of the chips at a time. And there's the vanilla peanut butter chip filling. And just like the chocolate chips, I have a lock and lock container, and I'm just going to pour these in here and store these in the refrigerator. Flavor number 10, one of my more popular flavors, is Reese's Buttercream. Who doesn't love Reese's? Come on. So I like to use the mini unwrapped and the regular Reese's Pieces, and I combine them together and chop them up. And I don't want it to be too chunky, and that is a disgusting word, but I don't want it to be too chunky, but I don't want it to be a powder, so trying to find a happy medium there. So that was 10 seconds. And look, there's a nice variation again of bigger chunks and powdery peanut butter candy. So I just like it to have a variation. You can, if you want it to be a powder, you can keep that going for another 10 to 20 seconds to chop it all up. Again, if I was going to make an entire batch of the peanut butter Reese's filling, then I would add a half cup to 3/4 cup of this mixture to the entire batch of icing. However, if I was making a cake with this filling, I would just get as much icing as I would need and add a little bit of the peanut butter powder, if you will, to it. And here is the vanilla Reese's filling. And again, to store this, and make sure it has an airtight lid on it, and I just leave this one out at room temperature. However, you can put it in the refrigerator if you wish. And flavor number 11, one that I love, is Butterfinger buttercream. And it's not as popular. I think people are scared. People are scared to try it. Once they try it, they really like it. So I got this box of unwrapped minis. It's a pain in the butt when they're all wrapped up. And doing the same thing, I want this to be in a fine powder. I don't want chunks of it in here. And that was in there for about 20 seconds, and it's all pretty fine powder. So if I was making an entire batch of this Butterfinger buttercream, I would probably add a half cup to a 3/4 cup to the bowl. However, if I was filling a cake, I would just get however much icing that I was going to need and add a little bit of the Butterfinger. And there is the delicious Butterfinger buttercream. And again, to store this, I just got this little guy because there's not too much in here, and have an airtight lid. And I just store this at room temperature. However, you can put it in the fridge as well if you want. So here you go. How amazing and delicious are all of these flavors. I can't even begin to tell you how wonderful they are. You have to try them for yourself. So we have the basic vanilla recipe that is the base for this, and we add a bunch of different ingredients to get a bunch of deliciousness. So there is only 11 flavors here that I showed you in the video. However, the possibilities are endless. You can buy the lemon filling sleeve and do a lemon buttercream. I was just thinking like maybe a cinnamon kind of buttercream would be good. If anyone has ever tried that, let me know. Or if you have any other ideas for this, please let me know, because I would love to try new flavors. Now, I do also have like a peanut butter and Nutella and other different filling flavors. However, that's from a cream cheese based icing. So I will do a completely separate video showing you how I get a bunch of different flavors out of the cream cheese icing as well. And with these flavors, I like to just fill the cakes with them, and I usually ice my cakes with the vanilla buttercream or the almond or the wedding bouquet, just because that is the white icing that I have. All the other ingredients will change the texture and or the color, so I just prefer to use that as a filling. However, if you want to ice the outside of the cake in it, you can. It might just be a little difficult to get it smooth. And to store any of this icing that I have left over, I use those sour cream containers just because I go through so much sour cream. So I'll put the icing in there. It's an airtight seal, and I keep it in the refrigerator, and it's usually good for like 3 weeks or so in the fridge. So I think that's it. If you have any other questions or comments, leave them below. I will try to answer as many comments as I can. I'm getting a lot coming in, and also YouTube doesn't always send me the notifications, so I'm sorry if I miss something, but I do try to read over as much as I can and respond as quickly as possible. And you can follow me on social media and check out my website. It's listed in the description below as well. And if you want to stick around, you can watch these 2 videos next, and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Please like this video if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and remember, it's cake. Have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.